Hi there, and welcome. My name is Bob Ballard. Welcome to the You Already Own It community call for the month of February. We have a nice crowd of folks here, and I think there's even more on the way. So thank you for joining us and spending an hour with us. If you're not talking, if you could, hi, you're not talking. Thank you. We like to have these interactive, so I don't mute everybody, but let's try to remember to be careful with that. So welcome to the February edition of the You Already Own It community call on the modern intranet. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, your You Already Own It team is brought to you by the Cloud Strategist team here at Planet, which I lead. And so my name's Bob Ballard. We have George Scott, Ken Nubler, Scott Dowling, Matt Nevins. We have Mary Tucker that keeps us all in line, make sure we keep up all of our promises with you, and it's all under the guidance of our VP, Steve Winter. Don't forget, as a You Already Own It customer, if you have questions about this presentation or anything else, feel free to you can send an email to youalreadyownit@go-planet.com. That will be delivered to the entire Cloud Strategist team. So we will follow up with you. It may be, hey, we've got to look into this, but we'll let you know. We'll follow up with you within 24 hours for sure, at least we might need to look in more, but we're happy to reach out to you. And of course, you can always reach out to your account team and get access to the Cloud Strategist team at any time. So the agenda, I'm really excited. I think we have a great topic today. As I said in my newsletter, right, I think that sort of SharePoint has disappeared and faded into the background a little bit with sort of the proliferation of Teams and OneDrive and some of those things. But it's making a heck of a comeback. And that's when I was chatting with Chadwick and his team about, what are you seeing out there and the kinds of projects that people are doing, and what do you need to be considering when you're modernizing your internet? So we're going to talk about, what is modern internet, talk a little bit about classic versus modern today. I know that we have customers in all varying states of here. What does that engagement look like, and what are some of the success stories with some visual examples? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chadwick. And if you like, Chadwick, just tell me when to advance the slide, and I'll advance the slide.
Okay, great. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Chadwick, one of the engineers here on the collaboration team. So I've done, my experience here, I've done quite a few of these intranets now. Been on the team for a little over a year. Seen a lot of different clients, a lot of different success stories, a lot of different use cases. And so today we're going to look at a couple that I've specifically worked on myself that I think were one of the larger of a good rollout, of what a good rollout could look like for a modern intranet. So what is a modern intranet? Right, so modern intranet is built upon the modern SharePoint Online, right? So that's going to be the new SharePoint framework that we're thinking of. Some of you may be used to the old SharePoint, that classic version, and where you had to get, a developer for custom CSS and JavaScript and all that to make it look nice and fancy. But now with the SharePoint framework, that's really what we're focusing on. So it's available everywhere. That's a huge thing. So you've got the intranet in your pocket. It's available on a tablet, on a smartphone, iPhone. I don't know about a BlackBerry, laptop, you name it, desktop. It's all responsive. It all looks good. And there's not a whole lot of customizations that has to be done for it to be a responsive platform that you can stick in your pocket or open up at your desktop. Utilizes communication site templates, modern team site templates, and modern lists. So again, really echoing that look and feel of what the new modern SharePoint framework provides and offers. Communication site template is something that's really cool. It offers a really nice, clean, kind of 2-inch margins on either side, a nice intranet look and feel. Multiple Office 365 services, and then the focus shifts from a corporate to more personalized content. All right, next slide. So the big one, who needs a modern intranet? Well, we would argue to say everybody, right? Everybody needs, in today's modern day and modern age of working remote, working times agnostic, we work at 9 a.m., we work at 10 p.m. We need a place that we can centralize our corporate location of content, news, reference material for benefits, health information. My kid gets sick, I need to know, how do I go sign up for a thing? how do we do that? Well, we do that with a modern intranet, right? A corporate intranet that I can access, where? Again, via the pocket or if I'm at my desk. So people that are using on-prem SharePoint organizations, 2019, 2013, 2016, and anybody that uses Office 365 as a platform. So those are going to be pure candidates to really focus in and to explore the use case of using this modern intranet look and feel and developing what could become their new modern intranet. Right, next page. Next slide. Next slide. Sorry. So why a modern intranet? Right, so Microsoft is purely investing in only the modern intranet today, and that is the SharePoint framework. So gone is the day where you had to really hire what I said earlier, that street developer, somebody to come in and do a whole bunch of custom CSS and custom scripting just to make maybe some color changes, right, or a palette change on a home page. In previous lives that took a whole category of consultants to do all that, and to get a change done was a whole new change set and code review, and the list goes on. Well, Microsoft is trying to make it very simple, for organizations to once it's set up, right? Because there's a little bit of work to just get it organized, but once it's set up, the company manages that and maintains that going forward. So ever expanding mobile workforce, we talked about that, right? That's really the use case of the user base. It's going to be primarily maybe not office bound, right? They're remote. They're all over the place. We're a very flat organization in terms of you've got users that you work with across the globe. Consistent look and feel, right? So we can have this very consistent and uniform look and feel easily, and that's the biggest point there. Is it's easy to do. So again, you're not deploying this massive code set change and color palette templates and all the CSS. Using a hub spoke model that we'll talk about later, it's very easy for you to just deploy a custom corporate palette that could be consumed across the organization. Shift in skill set, if I could talk right, shift in skill set. So looking at again the street developer. Right, so street developer isn't needed anymore. You've got the more drag and drop kind of declarative development type structuring of a look and feel. And kind of I don't want to go through all these one by one in depth, but less reliance on IT. We talked about with kind of the not needing to hire a consulting company to do all the development. And I keep saying a lot of development stuff because that's really what it focuses around, is just the simplicity of being able to ramp up and develop, air quotes, develop an intranet and roll that out with a simple user base, and a simple admin base. Simplicity, and it just works. It's clean, it's simple, it's mobile friendly, very easy to consume, very easy to configure. And it just works in that it's so easy, and it's just as easy to roll out. Next slide. So we'll take a look at what are some classic intranets, right? What does that look like if we unpackage a classic internet? So very in-depth SharePoint focused development knowledge, and I guess that's beating that rug again here. So you need to have developers on hand. You need to have somebody that knows some of the advanced scripting languages, right, to make those core changes. Classic tooling. So you've got master pages, page layouts, CSS, JavaScript, HTML, the publishing infrastructure. You've got publishing major, publishing minor, page check-ins, etc. Content editor and script editor web parts. So this is where you can add custom scripts to a page, which you may need to do if you want to get a certain result. You want a color or to hide something on a classic page. You got to use the scripts, right? Farm and sandbox solutions. That's the old WSP world. So you have to build the farm solution, you package that in a WSP, you deploy that to a sandbox, and then eventually deploy that to your farm. You pick what web app that's going to, all the things that circle event around the on-prem. Navigational elements. So, oh gosh, MMS driven. So this is managed metadata service application. And so it is still an offering in Office 365, and there's a strong use case for it, but what they've done in the modern intranet is just really, really simplified. This goes back to the last slide where we talk about why do a modern intranet. Well, just the simplicity. So let's say I want to have a global navigation across the top of 50 sites, right? Well, in previous life, I'd have to go to manage metadata service application. I got to do a global term. I got to create a term set. I got to create all the terms within there. Maybe could buy a term set called department, and then all the terms I could have like legal, HR, et cetera, et cetera. I got to configure all that. I got to go to every site and I got to configure it to consume that metadata service application term set that I just created. And then I got to manage that term set, right? I got to administer and I got to assign administrators to manage those metadata service application elements. But in modern intranet with SharePoint Online, you just create a hub spoke model and you click the edit button at the top, and it doesn't get easier. It does not get simpler than that. Site architecture. So looking at subsites, right? So that's kind of the old school mentality of a parent-child site relationship, whereas now we have this hub-spoke relationship in the new modern intranet in Office 365. So gone is the day where you rely on the subsite, and heaven forbid, subsite, this nested subsite structure, which becomes really administratively difficult to handle, both organizationally, and just visually. I mean, think about a perfect use case of why this is not a great idea is, let's say you have a department under IT, or actually I've seen this one before. Maybe you've got payroll. Well, payroll we know is kind of shared between finance and sometimes HR, right? You got HR payroll. Well, if you got a parent level site called finance and you got a subsite called payroll, but they get reorged because we get a new CFO and they say, well, we're going to move payroll under HR. Well, how do you carve off that subsite and everything with it, right? That you need like a ShareGate tool. That's a lot of administrative tasks. What do I do about permissions? Because I'm inheriting all these things to consider. And that's in the classic world, right? But in the new modern intranet world, if that is a spoke off of a hub, well, okay, we just unhook it from the spoke called finance and we hook it to the spoke called HR. Done, just like that, 10 seconds. So again, we're really highlighting that idea of simplicity, and it just works, right? It's very easy to manage and maintain. And when you can manage and maintain something that's simple, that opens up opportunities and time for you to focus on other areas, right? Maybe process improvements, business automation, etc. Next slide. Modern intranets, right? So what is a modern intranet? So less SharePoint focused knowledge required, kind of what I talked on already. You don't need to hire that big, deep knowledge developer that's had 10 years of HTML development, right? You could hire somebody that just knows how to do some WYSIWYG, drag and drop, right? The modern architecture, so site collections versus subsites, hub spoke relationship, everything I just talked about, right? And so in the new world, you have a one site collection, and you could determine systematically within the admin center, is this new site collection going to be a spoke or a hub or neither, right? If I say I want to make this a hub, then you just go into the admin center, you click on hub settings and make it a hub. And then if I determine that there's 20 sites that I want to associate as a spoke, I just pick those 20 sites, I click on hub settings, and I say associate with hub, and then I just pick the one that I just created. Intranet everywhere. So this is huge. And really, in my opinion, one of the biggest things outside of simplicity is just the ability to have it everywhere. We all know with everything going on, right, with COVID, everybody being remote and mobile, kids are home, you're running your kids out, but you still need to be able to do work. So you've got your iPhone, your kids are in the car, you're at the doctor's office, you need to check an email, you need to check, a news, you need to get on your benefits website. That's easy to do today. In today's world, your company is with you wherever your phone is. And that is so huge, I think. I mean, compared to like a 2013 on-prem instance or a 2016 on-prem instance, you can't do that. It's just not the same. And if you can do it, it's not easy. It's very complicated, right, to make that available. Maybe you got to have a managed managed device that's given out by your organization. Well, what if you're not in upper management to get a managed device? What if you don't get an iPhone, right? How do you access that content? But in the new modern intranet world, you can take that anywhere with you. So the information that you need is right there when you need it. And that's the biggest thing. Modern tooling. So browser, theme generator, PNP templates, site designs. These are all ways that we can really customize. And I use that term loosely, customize, because we're not focusing on developer customization always, but we can configure, look and feel. We can make a really, I'll use the word just kind of swanky, right? Really swanky, sweet looking website to serve the company. And we can do that really easily through the theme generators, through these PNP templates. You've got the lookbook, right? The lookbook is a site where you can go in and you can essentially just it's a lookbook where you look through this book of ideas and you look through this book of intranets and you decide what works best and what elements you want from that, and you just kind of shop around. And those are deployed using some of these PNP templates. Site design. So this is a really cool feature. I know some of the people on this call I've worked on projects with where we've rolled this out to some clients where, a user goes in, they click on new site, and they can pick an option of a template. Now this did exist in the old world, true. You had site templates and you had a published template and custom templates and things like that. But it was a little more complicated, right? But in today's new modern world, you can have these templates do a myriad of things. So you create the template, you deploy the template, users in your organization, whether it be all users or maybe a subset of users, they can consume and they can create sites using that template. That template can be something that goes and spawns off maybe contact lists within a new site, or if it's a project site, right? We've done this for a lot of project-centric customers, maybe some federal clients that are doing Fed work, and they have a new project site they want to spin up. So we create them a site template that's called, client ABC project, and they click on that template. It creates a new site, and then it goes and creates all these project artifacts within the site. So contact list, deliverables, etc. All the things that we are used to. Community support. So I talked about the lookbook. Right? Lookbook is a place, like I said, you can look through, you can get ideas, you can consume those ideas, you can grab those elements. The lookbook tells you exactly what it takes to get what you see on the screen into your organization very, very easily. GitHub. So some of these things we see, SPFX, fantastic 40 web parts. That's 40 web parts that are modern focused. You get things like like a news ticker you can get. You can get these custom gallery web parts. All these things that required just an exorbitant amount of development time and deployment time and testing time and farm solutions in the old world, right? Whereas today you just go find this fantastic 40, you download it, upload it, and boom, that's it. PNP modern search, right? So you can easily deploy this modern search application from GitHub, and you can have a custom search experience. Now that requires configuration, and I'll use that. So I'll pause at that word, configuration versus development. And it's kind of the biggest thing with this whole modern internet thing, right? You're not really relying on a hardcore developer to produce the new modern internet as much as you're relying on configuration and sort of that declarative development. Modern list and libraries. So modern list and libraries is just a new way to interact with your content, a new look and feel. Streamlined, looks better, a bit more uniform, etc. Next slide. Okay, modern internet capabilities. We've talked about, I think, the majority of this. So hub spoke roll up, right? That's the hub spoke model we discussed. Audience targeted content. So, for those that are familiar with the classic experience, you could say audience target certain web parts. That ability exists in the modern internet as well. So you can say audience target maybe some of the navigational elements, audience target some of the web parts. Site designs we talked about, compliance, Power Platform, so the Power Platform is a huge offering in and of itself. You can create Power Automate, which is your workflows, Power Apps, which is your forms, Power BI, which is your metrics and your fancy dashboards and graphs and all that good stuff. PNP templates we talked about a little bit. Permission sync to spokes. And so this is kind of how you can, and this is a new offering for the hub spoke model, but how you can manage a hub and you can propagate permissions down from hub to spokes, right? And then that kind of gives you that same interaction in the classic world of a parent site sub-site relationship. So next slide. Take a quick drink here. All right, so what does it look like for us to do modern internet? What does that engagement look like? So, roughly a $50,000 engagement is about 5, give or take, weeks. Averaging around $10,000 a week is what the engagement commitment would look like. Planning and design, configuration and content creation, custom branding, optional, and then additional content support, optional. And what's in each of these? So if we unpackage what each of these might look like, and so additional content support, so that could be things like, helping go through some of the content and creating some metadata tags, helping set up some maybe the news tags. So if you have an intranet and you've got specific news, but you maybe want to show different categories on the homepage of news, that requires setting up some tags, some page details. Custom branding, that would be part of the development team that would be able to come in and do some of the, when needed, the really hardcore development, custom coding to make look and feel fit your specific needs. Next slide. All right, modern branding and customizations. So this focuses on the SharePoint framework, right? So it's used for styling page or list elements by adding functionality to headers, some of the conditional formatting. Maybe you can say under a column, you got a column called status, and it's not started, it's in progress, it's completed, and you wanna change the color of those. So you could say, completed equals green, in progress equals yellow, not started equals red, right? So you can do that through, within the column, you just do a little drop down, you say, format column, and you can put some JSON in there, right? Client-side framework that relies on JavaScript, right? So that's, again, more of the developer focus there. Web parts, some of the extensions that are out there. So you've got the field customizer, list view command set, page customizer, search query extension for on-prem only. Debugging capabilities for modern pages exist, and manifest-driven deployment model that supports SharePoint and Teams. Next slide, please. So what we see on the screen is an example of some client work that we've done, or a branding scenario, right, what it could look like. So on the left, we see the out-of-the-box modern page. So good, right? Better than on-prem could offer, especially if it's like a 2013, old school kind of instance. But we see that it's not quite there. So on the right, a branded modern page solution, using some of the developer teams within Planet, how we transform kind of some of the key things we see on the right-hand panel there, the dates, right? So the dates are using the out-of-the-box events web part, and we transform that look and feel to the new custom colors there. Same with the we'll call the highlighting of the colors of the web parts, right? So all that is available using the SharePoint framework that we can help out with. So next slide there, please. All right, so let's talk about some of the success stories. So I had the pleasure of working with New York MTA. Fantastic project, wonderful client, excellent customer. And they came to Planet and they said, hey, we have no intranet. We have, the only way that we collaborate with documents is via a NAS, or like a network share. And we're all familiar with what that looks like, right? You go to your folders, my documents, you go to some Z drive, and you got 100,000 folders that you share between. So what that looks like to transform that into a modern internet experience is we came in and we said, all right, well, let's stand up our new tenant. So Office 365 tenant was created. They had nothing in it, obviously, so there's no SharePoint content management at all, right? They just really focused on using that network share. So we created this new site structure, introduced the hub spoke model, use team sites and communication site templates. And then we worked with them to create some of the automation that they wanted. So maybe in one of the instances they were doing like a floor check, and that floor check was just a Word document that they filled out on a network share that they filled out, and then I'm going to say it and I'm going to cringe, but they emailed for approval, right? That's what we're all used to. We email things for approval. But we digitally transform that experience into these Power Platform opportunities. We create, web forms and workflows to manage and to push and to send decisions and to accept decisions, and all of that is available using the new modern Intranet experience. Next slide. So what was the training plan, right? And what does that look like to roll out anything that we build? So the training plan for MTA specifically was just a SharePoint overview. So what I like to do when I work with clients is I'm really big on the art of the possible, right? You show them everything that the platform can do for them, right? Because a lot of people, I think, we hear SharePoint, we think, great, files and folders, awesome, I can do that, I got it, thanks, Chadwick. But there's way more, right? So we want to show them the art of the possible. What can this platform do for you? So explain top-level hub site navigation, right? So to get that consistent look and feel, to easily propagate the navigation across all elements of your organization. Explain what it looks like to follow a site. So, how do I keep a site in my most current interested sites? How do I easily navigate to that site? Do I got to save it as a bookmark, or can I just click on my SharePoint tab and see all the sites that I'm following there? Explain division news and how it feeds to explain division news and how it feeds from. So meaning, if I've got a team site department page or a team site department site, SharePoint site, and I add a news web part, right? So where does that news web part, where is it populated from? Like, how do I get new news into it? And let's say that maybe that legal department site is a spoke off of my New York MTA intranet site. Well, if I post something in that legal site, can I propagate that up to the master intranet site? Well, the answer is yes, you can. But how do we do that? So we teach some of that. And then updating your site. And this is all the basic things. So, creating news on a division page, which is I just explained, update quick links, create a page and edit a page, update a hero web part, add new web parts on a page, manage permissions. How do we manage permissions at a top level site? How do we manage permissions for individual items or assets within a document library, etc. Modifying site level navigation, which we kind of talked about. You just simply go up there, click edit, add your drop downs, add a mega menu item, etc. So these are all the things that we like to cover when we do these modern intranets with our clients. Next slide. All right, so a quick kind of before and after. So before, as I said, no intranet, nothing. They had nothing at all. The most that they shared for news was they did a news digest that they emailed out, which I think is common, but to do something through the SharePoint modern experience is going to be far more effective in ways of finding archive news articles, creating a centralized repository for all your news versus having to rely on Outlook. No business automation. All right, so there was no business automation at all. Everything happened through, again, I'll cringe, all via email. All approval requisitions, all submissions of requesting something, all via email. So the aftermath of that, kind of what I talked about, is we created this modern intranet that served, the entire organization with a hub spoke model. Provided them consistent navigation across the organization, created a modern communication site that was their main landing page, which gave them a nice, really clean look and feel for that modern intranet. 2-inch margin of white on each side. Central location for news to be consumed. This was huge. This is very exciting. So now, rather than sending out an email digest with just a blast of 10 topics in an email, they can land on this homepage and they can see categories of news. Do I want to see something that's a hot topic? Do I want to see something that's news of the day, right? Is it training related, etc.? So you can create those tags and those buckets for those news areas. We created several applications for them. So really trying to get them out of this email world and into this leave request, into this business automation. And some of those were like a leave request, floor checks, which I kind of talked about, really just to help streamline their day-to-day operations. Because again, the big thing here is we want to simplify day-to-day operations so that we can focus on our core business, right? If I can reduce the amount of time that I'm sending emails or approving an email or approving a requisition via email, if I can click a button, click approve, boom, that frees up a lot of my time to go focus on my core mission. Next slide, please. All right, so this is before MTA before. This was pretty much it. Next slide. And the beginnings of what it looks like afterwards. So we just go back to the last slide again real quick here. So before, couple folders, big NAS, and after. Look at that. Look at that. So on the left, we see that intranet. I know it's a little bit of a small picture, but you've got the hero web part, and these are some focus tiles, some hyper focus tiles where you can say, message from OIG leadership. So you can put a message from your organization's CEO, whatever that may look like for you. We've got the red alert on the right side. So this is where, again, from my iPhone or from my tablet or from my desktop, I can open up this intranet site and I can see red alert. This is organization news that you need to know right now. This is hot off the press. We've got some training news, tip of the day, but these are all things that, think about it. In the email world, you'd have to send out, I don't know, an email called tip of the day news, and with the email contents in there. An email called red alert with the email contents in there. An email called training news. But here we just aggregate that and stick that onto one page. The right-hand picture there, this is Office of MTA apps and quick links that are available. So no longer am I just searching around for saved bookmarks, but we're just using the quick links web part, right? Nice little buttons, easy, easy, easy. Next slide, please. Some of the applications that were built on the Power Platform. So the leave request application. So this is just a small picture of what the user dashboard looked like. So prior to me building this and rolling this out for the organization, if a user wanted to submit a requisition for leave, they had to send an email, and that was approved by their supervisor via email, and then that was put manually into this timekeeping system. That's their high level, organization timekeeping system. But they came to us and said, look, email is rough. We need a place that we can just all essentially have our own user dashboard, and a place that as a supervisor, I can go see all the submissions that have come to me. I can query against those. I can approve those. I can deny those, whatever I need to do. And so that's what the outcome here is on the left. It's a nice Power App. User lands here. They submit their request. They click the submit button. And then it shows their dashboard. So my submission's right there, right? The MTA contact list. So this was half of it's whited out because it's got their email addresses, but just to give you a little bit of visual, what this used to be was an Excel sheet with no pictures, nothing fancy, just an Excel sheet with names, which is fine, I guess. But wouldn't that be nice if it was, you click on it and it looks like a card, almost like a virtual business card? That's what we did for them here. So really easy to access and easy to update, so now everybody's got access to it. You can see the pictures, you can see the name, etc. Next slide.
Hey, Chadwick, before you go to the next slide, how long did the leave request application take you? Like, what was the level of effort for something like that?
Oh, great point. Okay, so I've got maybe, and now this is including, meetings, discussions, kind of some back and forth, like 3 days, 4 days max, just to whip all this up. And that's getting the SharePoint views, that's getting the whole site up, that's getting the requirement sessions done, that's getting the first Canvas app that you see on the screen. And then what I don't show on this slide deck here is the supervisor dashboard form, and that's a whole nother form, custom web form that we built. So you think about all that. Now, what would that have taken in the classic world? A lot more than a week, right? Just to set up a wireframe, I think it would take you a week sometimes. And so to Bob's point here, we can rapidly just deploy and develop and get these things out there for the organization to use and consume in just such an agile fashion that's really a benefit. All right, so legal and investigations homepage. So prior to what you see on the screen here, they just had a folder called legal and investigations. And that was it. Within that folder was, as we know, many more folders and folders below those folders. So this is their new landing place. This is one-stop shop. So we already see some of the news that's being populated. So legal news, what's happening? What's happening in the world of MTA? Those aren't the best articles, unfortunately, that they've posted up, but it's a great place that what's neat about this is the admins, they can post a link to maybe like a Washington Post article. It's going to pull in a picture and it'll fill in like the title and everything. So you don't need to write content. You don't have to be a curator of content. You can just reference content that's already out there on the web. Or if you have a corporate website that you're already posting to, or you're RSS feeding to or from, you can just post that URL and it'll aggregate that here. Some quick links on the right we see. So they got, cases, some of the typical legal stuff. Contact lists. These are some of the contact lists that we showed in the previous link or previous slide. Next slide. All right, another success story. Well, so to wrap up MTA, an amazing opportunity, awesome group of people, tons of wins there, tons of wins. I mean, we really just digitally transform how they operate day to day. Prior to Planet coming on, again, everything was from a network share, no mobile capability, right? No tablet capability, no business automation. Everything relied purely on files, folders, and email. And we took all that, we decoupled all that, and we built them. It's easy to just throw up a web page, right? But it's something different when you transform how somebody works. When you make it easy to access content they need, that makes their job easier. And again, if their job's easier and they're not spent 2 hours trying to figure out a thing and they can focus on the mission, that's what's important, right? Another success story, Dexter Magnetic. Again, awesome client. So this one I had the pleasure of doing myself. Very excited for what this need and ask was. So to set this up, what this looked like, Dexter Mag had their manufacturing company. They have a bunch of employees that are hourly employees that are on kind of the labor skill force that work in the factories, and they wanted a way, they being Dexter Mag leadership, CFO, CEO, right? They wanted a way to propagate and disseminate information down to the skilled labor force. But they weren't like licensed employees that had an Office 365 license. They weren't, people that carried around a phone and could just log into the portal. So Dexter Mag had these kiosks, and just like you'd see at the airport when you go print out your plane ticket, right? They had these kiosks all over these factories, and that was a one-stop shop where you, as a we'll call it a non-licensed Office 365 user, you could just walk up to this kiosk and you could interact with this intranet, right? You can get information about benefits, upcoming training events, any sort of news that's happening around. And that's really cool. I wish we got pictures of those kiosks, because I think that's the coolest. It's one of the cooler success stories that I've worked on here. To see what we made got to be rolled out, countrywide to all these different factories, and to know that somebody was working at their factory line, they went up and clicked the kiosk and touched on some things that I made, I think is really cool. Next slide, please. All right, so the homepage, this is their palette, their look and feel. All right, their colors were green, and we just focused on highlighting some of the core information for them, which was message from leadership, upcoming events, some quick links that we see on the right-hand side there to the 365 engagement program, They had a large corporate policy portal. They had this technology corner and these are all terms that we created, right, with them. Technology corner was an area where it was all SharePoint based. You could click on that button, you could jump into the technology center, and that would have resources, news, videos, brown bag sessions, just this toolbox full of information for you that revolves all around technology. Company events. So if there were company events coming up, this is where you as a licensed Office 365 person at your desktop could click, and you could say add to my calendar, and that would populate on your calendar. Or if you're in the kiosk, in a factory, and if you're not an employee that has a license to log into this, but you're just interacting with it on the kiosk there, you can just scroll through and see any of the company events that are coming up and take note of those. Right. Next slide. The training page. So this is a one-stop shop where you could find anything and everything you wanted to know about what Dexter Mag offered for training for employees. And that was including some of the skilled labor force. So on the left screen, we see just some of the basic elements. You've got the news web part. There's another news web part below that. On the right side, we see some of the ways that we use the quick links and the click tos to jump into different elements of the site. So I think some of these were like brown bag videos, how-to videos. There's a couple wikis that we created for them. How do I use Teams? How do I create a new channel? How do I create a new SharePoint site? All the basics, that kind of thing. The snack and learn, that was a huge thing. So I'm looking at the picture on the right-hand side at the bottom of the picture. So snack and learn. If I'm an employee and I want to participate in one of these snack and learns, I can just go here. I can see when the next one is, note that on my calendar, and participate in that event. And that snack and learn might have looked like something where I could learn about teams, how to create a team, how to manage a team, how to be a part of a team, teams as it relates to Office 365, or how to create a SharePoint site, something like that. Next slide, please. Oh, and that's it. So, in summary, modern intranets, again, the big things, very simple, very consistent, not a heavy focus and reliance on IT, right? This can be content that's owned, managed, contributed, curated by the business. That's huge. When you give the power to the masses like that, you get what? Maybe you get better content, more updated content, more curated content, etc., more involvement.
So I open it up if anybody has any questions, would like to ask questions of Chadwick or the broader cloud strategy team. Many of us are on as well. Happy to fill in. Just unmute yourself or type it in the chat window if you like. We'll stick around for a few more minutes. Feel free to ask any questions you might have. So while we're waiting to see if there are any of those, Chadwick, I've got a couple things that pop into my head. So getting started, you talked about, a little bit about that $50,000 engagement. Is there but let's just say you're trying to determine what you need to do on your own, maybe before to kind of get yourself focused before you engage with Planet or another partner, or you decide to do it all on your own. Where would you start? What would you start thinking about to sort of get yourself collected about what at a high level, what your plan might be?
Yeah, that's a great question, and those are the questions that we pose to clients kind of in the beginning if they haven't thought about this already. But what I would do is I would take sort of a mental inventory of what are the things that I do day to day? What are the processes that I do, right? Whether that's automated centric. So is that an actual workflow of some sort that happens per work stream? Like, am I sending a lot of emails out for approval and I'm just sending attachments for approval, right? Is that something that I could translate into an automated workflow fashion in a modern intranet? News. What kind of news am I sending out to the organization? Is that something that I'm doing via email, or is it some sort of MailChimp solution that I'm paying for, maybe that I could retire and add some cost saving benefit to the organization here, right? What are the other third-party applications that I'm using that could be satisfied using the Office 365 platform that I'm now paying for, right? And that comes with it. What does my network share structure looks like? Right? What does content management look like? What are all these things that we're doing on our desktops and via email and third party that could possibly be translated for the better, right? And transformed in a better process in the cloud.
Awesome. Thanks, Chadwick. Any other questions? Well, if you think about anything after the fact, or you're too shy to ask it in front of everybody, or you'd like to just have a further conversation, you can feel free to reach out to that you already own it at go-planet.com email alias that we talked about before, or of course engage with your account manager if you know who they are, or the cloud strategist if you know who they are, and we're happy to have a follow-up conversation with you. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording. And I thank everybody for joining us. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bob and Chadwick.